welcome to financialexpress.com. How are you?
Very
Great,
good. Thank
thank
you so
you.
much.
We love your
I
voice.
yes, it's all Bollywood, it's all films that I live and love. So yes.
Okay. He'll send you last film show poster.
I really want that. I really want that. I'll be starting
Absolutely.
with a very cliche question, but how are you guys absorbing, the love and the nominations? I mean the selection. How is it going? What is the feeling like?
You please, please.
Both of
No, we
you.
are absolutely thrilled. I mean, just the response has been unbelievable. We've been doing multiple city screenings. And people with all walks of life, film people, non-film people, spectators, people who are sometimes even very critical, who never go to see such cinema which is starless. So the response has been really, really great, and it gives us confidence in, great authentic storytelling. It gives us confidence that, okay, if you do something which is emotional, sincere, authentic, organic, it's going to touch people's heart.
So what about you, Dheer?
Yeah, I think it's been absolutely surreal. The kind of love that we've been getting, the kind of acceptance that we've been getting everywhere we go, everywhere we screen the film, everyone we talk to. Of course, it's a matter of great pride and absolute honor that we get to represent the country at the 95th Oscars, and we get to campaign for the country to get that nomination, to get that win. It's also obviously a big responsibility because India is full with passionate film lovers, and we want to do right by everyone and do right by the FFI and their choice to select us. We have really strong international partners with our global sales company and global distribution company Orange Studio from France, who have won, I think, 7 to 8 Oscars in the last 5 years for films like The Father and The Artist. We also have an incredible US distributor with Samuel Goldwyn Films, who's won, I think, 4 nominations and 1 foreign language Oscar in just the last 3 years. And both of them have, expressively mentioned and said that they feel that Last Film Show is a strong contender. So, given their past experience with the Academy and given their past experience with distributing films worldwide, we're quite excited that, we get to campaign this year and we get to take it to the next step.
So are we. I mean, fingers crossed. So are we. Nalin, what made you come up with Chhello Show? What and how is the film close to you, as in on a personal level?
I think the film is totally inspired from my own childhood while growing up in countryside of Kathiawar. And not only that, it's inspiration, but also I ended up shooting almost entire film there. So what you see is quite a few places very close to my village where I grew up. The meter gauge train, earlier it used to be all over Kathiawar. Now the 70-kilometer stretch which is left, you see that in the film. You also see the cinema hall which is named Galaxy in the movie.
Yes.
Originally it was called Kalapi. That's the place where I saw my film. And so a lot of this incident and anecdote which I gathered over the years from my friends and family, who used to tell me, that no wonder you are interested in cinema, that you want to make movies, because as a kid you used to do this, and as a kid you collected so much of junk of colorful glasses, and you would collect matchbox images, and you got into trouble with cops and police for stealing reels in the railway parcel room. And so all these stories were there, and I never thought they will one day become a Last Film Show. So yes, so I think the whole journey started when the most of the single screen, and then every single screen in India went digital, and which created a huge amount of unemployment among projectionists. They were totally forgotten people, I believe. And the biggest movie industry totally forgot because those people could not read or write, so they were not hired when they went digital. So that transformation was heartbreaking. Projectors in movies were scrapped, as junk. So It was one of those time which was just 10 years ago. It's not even hundreds of years ago. It seems like way, way ahead because digital era has moved so fast. But the last film theaters which were using celluloid was shut down as late as 2012. So many of these elements sort of came together to create the story of Chhello Show. Yeah.
Okay. Dheer, being a producer, were you skeptical in the beginning? Because the film has no big stars, but the content is really strong. So, what was your take initially?
So, I think film is a very, the film medium and the film business and the entertainment business in general, whether it be music or cinema, is a very high risk, high reward sort of model, right? And as producers, we try to take as many calculated risks as possible. But I think, and one of those things to sort of averse to create risk appetite or to create a way to reduce your risk is to have a star in the film because you have their fans that come to watch the film. But I feel like that's changing. We're seeing so many films that have big stars in it that are just not drawing audiences into the cinema. There is no urgency to bring people into the cinema, right? Because earlier, when you would see your star maybe 3 or 4 times a year on the big screen, when their new film was coming out, there was that want and that need to run to the cinema and watch it on the first day and the first show. But today, stars are heavily exposed on social media, on commercials, on blogs, and on YouTube.
True.
So I feel like that urgency is sort of reducing. Of course, we all love our stars, and we'll continue to love our stars. And there'll always be those big ticket films that you'll go to watch in the cinema. But I do feel like there's a general paradigm shift happening with viewers. But above all of that, to answer your question, for me, it was a no-brainer. As soon as Nalin called me and said he wants to make a film, I didn't even want to question what film it is because for me, it's not even about like the story. It's about the filmmaker. It's what the
Yeah.
intention with which Nalin has made all his films previously. I, of
True.
course, was a big fan of his films. I've watched everything, multiple times. It's sort of like my education and my film school has come from filmmakers like him. And so when he called me and he said he wants to make a film, I didn't even have to ask what the film was about. And then, it happened to be that the cherry on the icing on the cake was that it was a story that was so close to him and it was his own backstory that we were trying to highlight in Samay's story that I was just blown away because I remember the first time I'd met Nalin and it was just after he had done Angry Indian Goddesses. I had met
Oh,
him to to go and shake him up to ask him why he's done this, why he's taken me on this emotional ride, and and it was a really heartwarming conversation, and I was just asking him how where he's from, what the backstory is. I was just interested in how a man had come to create such beautiful films, and when he did tell me his backstory about how when he was young. He would take matchboxes, from the railway line and line them up and tell, like kind of like a storyboard. I was blown away. I just knew that this would make great screen story. So when it eventually came to be that he wanted to make last film show Chhello Show, and it was a story, I was just like I'm right there with him. I gave my
wow.
heart and soul right into it.
Right. I just got to know that the film is releasing in 95 cinemas, and you guys have ensured that the cost of the ticket is 95. Tell me something. Do you think that is going to attract more audience? Because we've seen during the World Cinema Day also when the ticket prices were reduced, more and more people could afford and enjoy the luxury of watching a film in a multiplex. How do you think that is going to impact? And what are your expectations from October 14th?
I would say the 95 rupees and 95 cinema hall comes from the 95th Academy Award, the Oscar. So that
Okay.
95 figure came because we are official selection representing India at the 95th Academy Award. And we thought it was a great gesture for people to connect with the film. And same time, it's only the last show of the last film show on Thursday, which is going to be one. So we are opening the last show of Thursday. So people, whoever, because we realized since last few days, a lot of people in social media are telling us, oh, we can't wait, can't we see it earlier? So we said, okay, why not? Let's do earlier, Thursday at last show. So the whole team came together and came up with this idea. And I really hope people come on Thursday, last show, to watch the last film show. And Friday onwards, they watch all the shows, I hope.
But do you think that how important, first of all, is box office to you both? Also, do you think that is going to impact the dynamics of the business some way?
So I think that the box office is important in the sense that it's a representation of the number of people that come to watch your film, right? I don't think it's the revenue per se that is of of discussion here. Because for us, for our film, it's just as filmmakers, when you set out to make a film, the idea with which you set out to make, or the intention, of course, sometimes it's purely a business decision, but a film like this is from the heart, and it's meant to connect with people from the heart. So when we do screenings, and when people who are non-film people, young 8, 10, 15-year olds, 70-year olds, when people come with their family and we see their reaction and how they warm up to us and to the story, and then how they start projecting themselves into the film, like every time we do a screening, people come up to me and they're like, oh, this reminds me of my childhood when I used to go to my first film was this, or I went to the projection room once because I saw the light come out there. I got to play with film patti once, or it'll remind them of the food, because there's incredible Kathiawadi food in the film.
Yes.
There's dal dhokli, and I don't reveal too much, but food, films, friends, and the future. There are 4 incredible themes that run through the entire film, and each person connects to that in some sense, and it reminds them of their own childhood. So I feel like our job now as filmmakers, and I think we've been really lucky to have our producer Sid Roy Kapoor and Roy Kapoor Films, who are pushing out the film extensively in India. Um, the idea is to just get as many people to go and watch it. And of course, being selected as India's entry to the Oscar has helped that, because it's created an organic word of mouth around the film. There's been incredible conversations done around the film. Amul carried an incredible ad
Yes.
for
Yes.
us. They had it all over the billboards. We're going to be going on primetime television with a few, shows that are loved by all of India. So it's also our job, because Bhavin Rabari, the lead actor of the film, and the rest of the boys, just to see them experience this firsthand has been, an incredible and just an incredible experience, because coming from where they come from, which they haven't been exposed to the whole world, they haven't been exposed to all of India yet, right? Completely, they're young boys. They go to school, they come back from school, they live fairly simple lives, as we all did when we were, 10 and 12 years old. So to see them go out and experience the love is so. I think it's also our responsibility and our duty to get as many people to watch the film, to recognize their work, and to recognize the effort, and this Herculean effort that the cast and the crew has put in.
I'm looking forward to it, like desperately. So, yes. Nalin, how, as a director, do you stay non judgmental while making films?
Sorry?
Non-judgmental.
Non-judgmental, yes. I think it's kind of natural, when you are, because I came to cinema as being a film buff. I just watch all kind of cinema, and it happened during I'm a self-taught filmmaker. So when I came to Baroda, I had only seen as a kid popular masala, what we call Indian movies, popular entertainment. And when I came to Baroda for the first time, I discovered Hollywood movie, English movies. Then I went to study at National Institute of Design. There was a film club which I was running, where I discovered the world cinema, like movies, whether coming from all around the world, Italian neorealism or German expressionism or French New Wave or Japanese cinema and all that. But at the same time, what was great was, which I don't think can happen in any other country except India, that, we will watch in the evening Robert Bresson masterpiece, and then next morning we are going to go and watch some Hollywood movie which is playing in the cinema hall. And by evening you are watching, one of those Amitabh Bachchan movie on television, So it was just natural. And it's not that I didn't enjoy one less than other. You didn't have to be. I would equally enjoy Pickpocket by Robert Bresson. And in the same evening, I was watching Amar Akbar Anthony and just having a blast. That's, I think, is the power of cinema, and I cannot say, it will be stupid for me to stand and judge certain type of cinema. And it's not, because that's the beauty, the enormous amount of possibility it represents. Every time I thought, oh, now it seems everything has been done, then suddenly you discover a filmmaker all his life he only shot movies in factory where there's no human being, and that's equally breathtaking. Then you think, okay, that's also done. So the cinema as a form keeps you constantly surprising, whether you have the big studio movies, from there to people making very intimate personal journey, which they are closely connected. So I think it would be, I'm totally open. When I go into movie, I leave all my burden behind and just enjoy. At least the first viewing is purely as a spectator. So that film must move me. It could be like a huge spectacle, star, no star, whatever title we want to give, which I also don't like. But anyway, yeah, I don't know how to put that into theory, but that's how I am.
That's nice. You've nicely put it. My next question, I'll have to read it out for you, Nalin. Samsara, Valley of Flowers, Angry Indian Goddesses, Ayurveda, Art of Being. I mean, for me, Angry Indian Goddesses is my favorite. You've given us some incredible films. And each film is unique, each film is different than what we have probably watched from you. I want you to look back at your journey and tell me, how has it been? And was there a time when people thought that you won't be able to make it or something like that? And how do you keep your passion for filmmaking that strong with each film?
I think the kind of movies I chose to make and the kind of path I chose, it's a bit like a Buddhist parable when they tell you in front of you there are two paths. One is easy and one difficult. Which one will you pick? Sadly enough, or strangely enough, I picked the difficult one. So it was always, there were enough people to tell me, no, this is not to make. Even when I made my first feature film, I still have a file with 200, 300 rejection letters of, oh, this can't be made, this is not a good idea, this is not a good story. But somewhere you have to believe in it, because I knew that there will be somewhere people who will believe in the story, they'll come together and this dream will materialize. And each time, with each story, I like to reinvent myself. That way I can remain not boring and I can remain young in certain way, because each film should start with new, because we cannot tell the same story with the same kind of cinematic treatment.
Sure.
I don't belong to that author-driven cinema where all kind of stories are told in one cinematic language. No, I rather say, okay, now there's Angry Indian Goddesses. How do I find appropriate DNA of that story and change the language of cinema and the sound, and and then apply that. When I made Samsara, it was totally opposite that the way I made Angry Indian Goddesses. So I think so that is not very so-called commercial. The illusion which is created that, okay, what is commercial by the producer and distributor. So of course there are obstacles. It's not that I don't want to work with Star or studio. Yes, I do want to work with them. But would they want to do something, incredible, different? If not, they are happy doing those what they do anyway. If I have to just repeat what they are doing, then I don't see my bigger role in it. I'm just there as a service provider, which I can't be, not definitely for 3 years we give to each film. But somewhere we feel that, okay, I can use bigger actor, bigger star, and use their stardom and tell, somewhere, we can meet and make bigger story. It will be always be great. So each film making, I don't think is such a challenge than distributing it. So for me, it has always been a struggle that, yes, I was really happy that Samsara, even Angry Indian Goddesses, we released in 35 countries theatrically. It was then on Netflix for 5 years, but it's always hard to convince exhibitors or theaters in India to say, okay, we let people give them a chance, give Samsara or Valley of Flower, so there is that fear that, oh, it doesn't have star, it doesn't have song, doesn't have item number, there is no buzz. And very often they would rather spend crores of rupees on certain big project than, try to bridge that gap. So I think if audience is given a chance with different kind of film, which I have experienced, I always believe, even when we had Samsara, 25 screens, small release. No one really knew about it. It gave me confidence in India that, most of the shows were running really full, 70% capacity, whether it's Bombay, Delhi, Pune. So I knew there was audience, and I've been to those shows, and I'm sure some of those people are there when it came out in 2006. Sony and Shimaru did a very selected niche release, but people were coming, and the word of mouth, it was growing. The reviews were fantastic. So this is when, if you're in any other country, those 25 screen would become 50 or 75.
Right.
That doesn't happen in India because our commercial model is very different. By the time, if you run longer the movie, the lesser the profit will be for producer. That doesn't exist anywhere in the world. So the whole conception of box office driven by by the crore rupees is again a wrong perception. Because I think what's important, as Dheer pointed out, how many people have seen the movie?
Yes.
And there were times in early days, Samsara, Valley of Flowers, I myself was pirating my own movies for people because I wanted to see them, at any cost. Because I do believe that if we adapt European model to Indian box office, that transparency will show the truth. European model is that in Europe, when Italy, France, Germany, when they release the movie, they always write not how much money it made, how many people have seen it. You will never see the box office. If you just go online and you will see, oh, this movie is seen by 200,000 people, 1 million. This is a box office hit because this 3 million people have seen it. The money is not mentioned. It's how many people who saw it. And so if we do that, you will know even some of the mega blockbuster, how thin the figure is, how many number of people who must have watched in a country of 1.3, 1.4 billion people. Everybody's maybe waiting it too. So I think there are some myths which can be broken. So somewhere in that cinema, the kind of movies I do has always remain kind of an outsider's tale, because you don't play by the rules. I don't like terms, it's Hollywood and Bollywood and Tollywood and, all this is just, I hate films to be called art house and indie and world cinema. I've never agreed on any title. I've always believed cinema, however you like it, it is a commercial venture. How much art you can put in, it's up to you. So those are the things, I go on with. And I'm really happy that even 5-6 years later, people discover my film, and I sometimes meet some people who have seen my film and tell me, oh, I remember shot by shot something I did 20 years ago. So that's deeply touching. Somewhere you feel, okay, you are doing something right. If like one of the person last night after the screening said that you don't know, but your film have the longest shelf life. I don't even know what that meant, but it remained a collective memory around the world, long time. And I know a couple of superstars when they were abroad, and they discovered my cinema because they told them, oh, we like this Indian filmmaker, and they didn't even know about me. He said, like, who is this guy? What are his films? So I think in a way, good work will always come out and find its way. And similarly, the Film Federation of India, I met Dheer because he liked Angry Indian Goddesses.
Right.
He's a super young producer, who connected to that work. We met. And when we met, we never thought we are going to work together. Nothing, It was just a lot of talks over tea and some, Kathiawadi food, home cooked food. And then suddenly, we are working together. And he also has a lot of young team member. And, so that's what is quite promising. Someone like him, they would be dreaming probably to make movie with big stars, no, but it's so I think that's what is important, that you can find people who will believe that, okay, great thing is that once you make a good story, how do you bridge the gap to bringing it to the people? Awards, Oscars, all this is milestone, doesn't really matter in the end of the day. And we must thank Film Federation of India and the jury, because thanks to them, people know the title Chhello Show, last film show. And many people are writing to me now on social media that thank God, finally people will discover your work.
Dheer, as a producer, was it difficult for you initially to bring the film to theaters, as in to get the number of screens? And how is the process, if you can explain it for our viewers?
Sure. I'll talk first about the international distribution. Once we screened the film at Tribeca, and even pre-Tribeca, there were a lot of international distributors who picked up the film for theatrical distribution. So we have, like I said earlier, we have Samuel Goldwyn in the US. We have Shochiku in Japan, which is a legacy studio, one of the biggest in Japan. They've done all of the Kurosawa films and Ozu films. We have Medusa in Italy, which is again a massive, massive studio in Italy. We have New Vision in Germany. We have Karma Films in Spain. We have distributors in Taiwan, in Israel, Turkey.
Yeah.
So really, Norway, Finland. Literally, our film has played in the northernmost cinema in the world, closest to the North Pole, in Norway, right? So I think that I've been really lucky because while I would like to take credit as a producer to have gone out and made these sales, it's really Nalin because his films earlier have made a lot of money for distributors in all of these territories. So he's one of those few filmmakers you can count on one hand from India whose films sell internationally to non-diaspora audiences.
True.
Where any of these studios, the ones that I've mentioned now, they've never ever bought an Indian film before. This is the first time that they're even picking up an Indian film. And obviously, there's a strength in the story and specifically this film, but because of its global themes. But also, there's a track record that Nalin has had as a director. So for me, then to go out and find the market was not as challenging as it would have been with another director per se. Even if they were making the same film. So I feel like in that sense, I've been lucky. Now, when it comes to India, we've been really lucky to have Roy Kapoor Films and Sid Roy Kapoor, Siddharth, who's just had such a great track record in India, both at UTV Disney as well as in his own company now. That we're along for the ride. He's been able to find the right screens, to find the right pockets of audiences across the country, and give a very sort of a release with love. It's not just a release where you just put it into cinemas and let it go. It requires a certain amount of personal touch, which both him and PVR have been extremely benevolent and given their time and their effort into bring it to cinemas.
Right. My last question is, what's next? What should we expect next from you both as a producer and director?
I think next we are currently going to be just busy with Oscar campaign. Now we've been given this enormous responsibility. So as soon as the release gets over, first we need to take care of that task. And while we do that, we'll cook up something.
Nice. Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely talking to you. I am intrigued, and yes, finger crossed. I am hoping for the best. So yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Have a good day. Bye.